The following podcast has been paid for by the Comic Movie Marks.
You just remember what your old past said. Boy, you got a friend in me. Yeah, you got a friend in me.
Hello and welcome everyone to the Comic Movie Marks podcast.
What? A podcast? I guess we're back. We're not going to host this though on iTunes or anything.
Yeah.
But it's basically podcast style. It's throwback to what we used to do when we'd have guests on and we talk for 2 hours about nonsense and break down every little scene of a 2.5 hour long movie. And we go 3 hours in the podcast.
Exactly. And our guest is not Zack Snyder like most people guessed on Twitter.
Wow.
Sorry to disappoint.
I guess.
Best thing.
Well, as I put in my tweet, the fifth next best person, we have Lantern 2814 on the other end.
Woo.
There we go. Woo, he is here. So we're going to have the ultimate debate between the DCEU fans, I guess maybe the Snyder fans, whatever. This might be a little isolated for some because some may not like one movie or the other, or you just join our side, you know, because that's the right side to join.
Yep, the dark side.
No, the light. We're the Jedi.
Oh, we are?
Yeah, because Man of Steel's pure.
Oh, okay.
BVS is dark.
It's dark.
Dingy.
Oh, okay.
And evil.
Well, and then I'm joined in the dark side. No, I'm just kidding.
Way to go. I already lost my tag team partner. So we got a menage a trois of fun here. And we're going to go through 5 topics to determine which is better, Man of Steel or Batman vs. Superman, Dawn of Justice, the ultimate cut. We have to clarify that.
Yes.
Ultimate cut, not the theatrical.
Yeah, not that theatrical shit. Yeah, exactly. Fuck that shit. So we got 5 topics. Judge us. Make sure you hit that gimmick in the upper corner thingy there. I'm going to put a poll, and you guys vote in the poll or in the comments, whatever. And we will see ultimately who won. This all stemmed from Lantern doing a poll on his Twitter about 4 DC movies that he put. He had Wonder Woman, Man of Steel, Batman vs. Superman, and Aquaman. He left out Suicide Squad.
No, I don't know how that happened.
And it came overwhelmingly BVS, which I was a tad bit surprised. I thought it would be a little tighter. So we're here, Shane and I think. I don't know. Shane's kind of fucking diverting on me. To represent the Man of Steel and maybe change some minds of the masses.
Yeah, we're knocking on the door, and we have the book of Man of Steel, the book of Snyder.
Okay, you watch the shit on your phone at work, so Man of Steel. So you better have this movie down.
No, I do. I'm fucking ready to go. I had to change course here because I had different notes, and I was gonna approach this a little bit differently, but then we talked about it. And I went, oh, okay.
And he got vetoed.
Yes, exactly.
No,
so here I am, but I can argue this back and forth in my sleep. Be ready, Lantern.
Oh, yeah.
And it's on. All right, I'll kick it off. So the plot between, obviously, Man of Steel, BVS, the plot in Man of Steel is solid. It's a great... different.
I hope so. It's a good movie.
It's all right. It's first contact. It's also an origin story, all kind of meshed together, and you have the growth and a great initial character arc with Superman, with Kal-El's character, kind of trying to figure out who he is, who he's going to be. That's where the movie starts on Krypton. You spend about 20 minutes on Krypton. So we're already establishing some great aspects of Krypton, more so than we've really seen before. And then it just delves into, Kal-El's childhood, Clark's childhood in flashbacks, pieced together incredibly well. Then it all kind of comes full circle when you get Zod, who appears, and talked about this before, but I thought a lot of the marketing with this movie was fucking awesome. And one of the coolest things that was released was the Zod message. And again, talking about first contact, and it's just done so differently than most superhero movies are, in a way where it's really like a sci-fi type film. Like you could strip away the Superman aspect of it and just have it be like an alien, and I think it's phenomenal.
Fantastic.
Touche.
I'm not going to disagree with that. Obviously, I guess it's my turn now, but
Go ahead.
But I was going to go ahead and read the actual plot from the movie real quick.
Cheater.
Google.
How dare you use Amazon as a source?
But the Google plot for BVS is: it's been nearly 2 years since Superman's colossal battle with Zod devastated the city of Metropolis. The loss of life and collateral damage left many feeling angry and helpless, including crime-fighting billionaire Bruce Wayne. Convinced that Superman is now a threat to humanity, Batman embarks on a personal vendetta to end Superman's reign on Earth, while the conniving Lex Luthor launches his own crusade against the Man of Steel. And I think that, summed it up pretty well. It's definitely a more grounded story than Man of Steel. I think Man of Steel is a great first contact movie, but I think this movie has a lot more humanity in it. There's a lot of questions about God and our place in the universe. Can God be defeated, or can man bring down God, and those kind of questions? Yeah, that's all I got.
All right, since you cheated and used Google, I'm going to use Google now for Man of Steel. With the imminent destruction of Krypton, their home planet, Jor-El, Russell Crowe, and his wife seek to preserve their race by sending their infant son to Earth. The child spaceship lands at the farm of Jonathan and Martha Kent, who name him, come on, give me more.
Loaded.
Buffering.
It just kind of stops there. Name him Clark Kent.
I was going to say.
It does. It just stops there, and there's no way to click on it.
Oh, my God.
Okay, that backfired.
It's a train wreck.
Wow, this is going well.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Matt, do you have anything to add about the plot of Man of Steel?
So the story in the plot of Man of Steel, to me, is a story of isolation. A man taken away from his homeworld, not knowing who he really is, not knowing what his purpose is in this world, slowly finding it out through hardships, by being pushed through his limits on certain issues and certain things, holding back when he really needs to, or else he would just annihilate like that little prick that pulls him out of the car and shit. Or that little prick at the fucking bar that drives a freaking truck. I just noticed that it's like little pricks.
Right.
It's a guy that just tries to find purpose. And as Lois Lane says at the end, welcome to the planet.
Yeah, I will just kind of chime in a little bit with BVS. I'm not arguing for it at all, but I can definitely see what Lantern's talking about. It raises a lot of questions.
Or Google.
Or Google in this case. I just really enjoy what Man of Steel was able to accomplish. It really kicked off the universe in such a great way, and kind of said at the time, this is the direction we're going to go with this universe. We're going to establish. It had a ton of Easter eggs. The plot, simplistic in a way, but as Matt put it, also really made you think. Being a huge Superman fan, that was super eye-opening for me.
The groundwork for BVS was laid by Man of Steel. The story of Man of Steel is essential to BVS. So you can't improve the story over BVS. You can't. It's impossible. Without Man of Steel, there is no BVS.
Oh, because I think you could watch BVS without Man of Steel, personally. Tells you everything you need to know at the beginning of BVS. Because I think BVS was the first movie a lot of people saw. I don't think a lot of people saw Man of Steel before seeing BVS. Because the box office numbers were, BVS made more money. I'm not using that as a reason why BVS is better, but more people saw BVS first and then went back and watched Man of Steel. Get connected to that beginning part of the movie for sure.
Damn you.
Then how do you know about Kevin Costner? How do you know about Jonathan Kent? You just think he's some weirdo up in the mountain playing rocks. Right. He's Ghost Dad. You got to know Man of Steel that he died. But that actually is kind of true, that point that Lantern brings up. I did notice a lot more people saw BVS in theaters but never saw Man of Steel in theaters.
Right.
So they may have saw it later on DVD or Blu-ray.
But definitely less people saw the Ultimate Edition of BVS. Like, you know.
Oh, yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, that's the sad truth of that one.
So it's kind of a wash. So it's kind of Well, the script for BVS was written by Chris Terrio, Oscar-winning writer.
Fuck.
David S. Goyer.
All right, moving on
I pulled up a few quotes that I really liked from the movie. The one that came at near the beginning of the film: "Men with power obey neither policy nor principle. No one is different. No one is neutral," which kind of tells you the whole plot of the whole movie, because that's what the whole movie's about. That, you know, Lex Luthor's trying to take down Superman because he can't be neutral, right? He can't be this all-powerful being and just stay on the fence. He has to pick a side, right? And Lex Luthor's trying to show that to humanity and stuff like that. Some other quotes I have: Bruce Wayne, where he says we're criminals and stuff like that. And then Alfred says, "Oh, yes, it has, sir. Everything's changed. Men fall from the skies. The gods hurl thunderbolts. Innocents die. That's how it starts. The fear, the rage, the feeling of powerlessness that turns good men cruel." I think that really reflects Batman's entire character for the whole movie, that he feels powerless in the face of Superman's like great power that he can't overcome, no matter how hard Batman tries. Even though Batman does win the fight in the end, you know, Batman finds a way because he's Batman. But he's obviously fallen into like a hole because he feels powerless, and he's essentially the villain through the whole film, right? So,
yep. No, I shouldn't agree with you. Shit.
Yeah. He's like, yep. Good point.
One more quote I got though from the dialogue in this movie, and that's Lex Luthor's line at the end, the rooftop scene, where he sees Superman. He goes, "See, what we call God depends on our tribe, Clark Joe, because God is tribal. God takes sides. No man in the sky intervened when I was a boy to deliver me from daddy's fists and abominations. I figured out way back, if God is all-powerful, he cannot be all good. And if he is all good, he cannot be all-powerful." I think that's an amazing line because, number one, it's actually a direct reference to General Eisenberg's speech when he first walked into the concentration camps in Germany. And that's exactly what General Eisenhower said when he saw the concentration camps. He said, "There's no way God could be all good and all powerful, else this wouldn't happen." That's essentially Lex Luthor's main driving factor in this movie. And I just think the dialogue was beautifully done in this movie. Chris Terrio and Zack Snyder and David Goyer definitely wanted to tell a story that was more complex and stuff, definitely more enriching. Even though I'm not saying Man of Steel isn't enriching, but I'm just saying I think they put a lot of effort into the script, and that was definitely overlooked, a lot of it.
I'll read some of my favorite quotes from Man of Steel. Dick Splash. That was one of my favorite ones.
Some of my favorite quotes. Dick Splash.
Because they hit the water right afterwards. It's so, it's poetic justice. It's poetic justice when he just yells,
"And the defense rests, Your Honor." Next topic.
It's actually kind of a controversial line, but when Jonathan Kent is talking to his teenage version of Clark Kent, which, by the way, is a much better teenage actor than the teenage Aquaman.
Yes, don't even get me started on that.
And when Jonathan Kent's telling him, "Keep this side of yourself a secret," what am I? And then he says, "What am I supposed to do? Let them die?" Maybe. I don't understand why people have such a problem with that one. To me, it's just, it's the true answer. It's the real answer that you would have towards something like that. Because what the fuck's the answer at this point? What is the answer?
Right. I like the rest of that is when the world finds out what you can do, it's going to change everything. Our beliefs, our notions, what it means to be human, everything. You saw how Pete's mom reacted. She was scared, Clark. Even there's another great quote by Perry White where he's talking about the same thing. Can you believe if they find out that this person exists, it's going to change everything? When Perry's talking to Lois, could you believe, you know, what how the world would react? There's a lot of different quotes in this movie. If someone were to show up and a god were to show up, what would that do? That would change the entire world.
When Clark looks at him and says, "Can't I just pretend to be your son?" And then he grabs him, says, "You are my son," crying like a bitch almost every time.
Yo, yeah, easily.
One of the beginning scenes with Martha Kent when she has Clark in the closet. And she just says, "Follow my voice," or "Focus on my voice, pretend there's an island." I'm kind of using that rumor that we heard about Justice League, but I just feel that is...
I was just thinking about that. I'm like, son of a bitch. Like, if that's fucking true, I swear, I know. If that's what, oh my gosh, if that's what Lois tells Clark to bring him back, fuck you, Joss Whedon. Damn it.
I know, seriously. These parents aren't perfect, Martha and Jonathan Kent, but Jesus, everything they say just seems so important and relevant, and what they're doing is fantastic, and that's kind of more a character thing, so I need to divert back to dialogue.
Yeah, so for me, a lot of the dialogue in Man of Steel that I really enjoyed about it, I knew this one was going to be hard to argue because there's some great dialogue in BVS, but the stuff in Man of Steel is so key to kind of establishing, if you look at just the surface, it establishes kind of this universe that we live in, that it's going to be a real world, what Zod was attempting to do. Zod has some great dialogue. But aside from that,
have no people.
Yeah, that he was bred to basically do one thing. Going back again to that same clip that was released, where he's trying to find Clark or Kal-El. And I also think the dialogue in Man of Steel is so inspiring. It's different, as Matt put it. We're the light side, and BVS is the dark side, and that's what Man of Steel is. It's incredibly inspiring. Some of my favorite quotes, again, goes back to the marketing. Jor-El says, "You will give the people of Earth an ideal to strive towards. They will race behind you, they will stumble, they will fall, but in time they will join you in the sun, Cal. In time, you will help them accomplish wonders." And I also think that's another fucking quote that probably was supposed to be brought back in Justice League to show, hey, here's the inspiration that you can be. Where after Clark gets pulled out of the truck by the bully, and then he has the brief exchange with Jonathan Kent. Jonathan says, "Did they hurt you? No, they can't. That's not what I meant. You just have to decide what kind of man you want to grow up to be, Clark, because whoever that man is, good character or bad, he's going to change the world."
There's a couple lines in Man of Steel that feel a little clunky because I really don't feel like they have a writer like Terrio on that film. Like that one line at the beginning where Jor-El says, "We had a child, Zod, a boy child." Like, why?
Well, they don't know.
Why would he need to say that? Why would he? You know what I'm saying? Why would Zod care if it's a boy or a girl? I feel like there's a couple moments like that.
Well, maybe they're gonna paint the room blue afterwards.
Yes, that's a fair point.
But I agree with most of it.
I did when I actually rewatched Man of Steel to get a refresher. And yeah, and when he does say that, a boy child, it's like they don't even know how to say it, like because it's so unnatural.
Yeah,
for them, like I don't know if that was purposeful or maybe it's Russell Crowe's delivery of this line. It's just, yeah, I get what you mean.
I could explain it as they're an alien civilization and that's just how they talk on Krypton. Mm-hmm. I feel like they could have went by on the script at least one more time to fix some of those issues.
Yeah. Speaking of alien civilization, something that BVS did not have was a language that was created and implemented in the film that they had to go through and create a whole Krypton alphabet, and it was all over, whatever that main room is with all the politicians when Zod comes in and starts shooting people up. They had a whole language and everything. It's too bad that wasn't delved into a little bit more, but pretty badass.
I know this seems like an odd character, but it's probably actually my favorite character from Man of Steel. And it's probably just because we just quoted almost every single line he has in the movie, and that's Jonathan Kent. He is so essential to this movie. Also Jor-El as well, but I feel Jonathan is the more grounded, realistic dad, while Jor-El is that dad that is inspiring. It's like the Asian dad. Expects you to get all A's and be perfect and like this awesome person. When Jonathan Kent is more of the trailer trash dad. and he's just more realistic. And obviously we quoted so much, and really, if you go back and listen, like the quotes that Shane and I were just giving out, like 5 of them, I think, or 4 of them were Kevin Costner's Jonathan Kent. The whole interaction he has with him, the limited action we see with him, because obviously he doesn't make it through the whole movie.
Spoilers.
Spoiler!
Should we have given a spoiler warning at the beginning of this?
They haven't seen these movies, so what the
And we're the last people you should be hearing this shit from.
Right, yeah. No kidding.
I watched the tornado scene, and I'm having more and more appreciation for the tornado scene every time. When I first saw it, I was like, I was kind of up in the air. It's still heartbreaking to see it happen, but I was like, I could kind of see where, maybe the heart attack is better. I don't know. But the more I watch the tornado scene, the more you just see the look on his face. You just watch Costner's acting in this, and you look at his face, and you look also at Clark Kent's face as well, and you can just see the struggle that is really deep for him, that he cares so much for his son. He'll sacrifice himself to make sure his son can live a normal life. And I think that's a lot of things that's lost on people, because apparently sacrifice is, especially in these superhero movies, is just so nonchalant. It's like, why don't you just have this character do it instead? Why didn't they just have the superpowered kid grabbing all the stuff, grabbing all the people from the tornado? Well, because he's the dad.
It shows how much respect Superman has for his dad, really. I like that scene a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. And to that same point, it shows really what Jonathan Kent, he talks about the other great line, or what should I have done? Just let him die. And he says maybe, because he wants so bad to protect his son. I know that's not the right answer, but maybe you should have just let these other kids die, because it's you can't expose yourself. Now I'm also saying let me die, because you cannot expose yourself. Clark is talking to Lois, and he says that my father believed that the world wasn't ready. What do you think?
And that leads into that thing with Perry White, and what Perry White's reaction is. And it all falls together, because it's what Jonathan Kent believed in. And whether you think it's stupid or not, if you're somehow listening to this and still think it's stupid, I think it's just the ultimate dedication to your son. Even if it's not your blood, it's still your son. And to preserve his life the way it is now without these issues, because this is an irrational world. This is the real world, and no one is going to be rational in a real world situation if there is a Superman,
right? And
he's dedicated to that idea. And then later on we get the flip side with Jor-El. To me, in the end, Jonathan Kent is my favorite character.
Yeah, I would say I like every. I know this is going to be such a bullshit answer, but I enjoy every character.
I like everyone.
Yippee! Flowers. I don't know why. I've been playing too much Mario Kart with my son. Yippee! Yahoo! Here we go. All right. Anyways, aside from that, so everyone has a great part to play, and the casting, Zack Snyder. Holy shit. The casting that he does for these movies, you have Zod, you have Feora, who has such an important part, badass character, Jonathan Kent, you have Jor-El, even to the point of like Martha has a good impact in this, Laura L. Yeah, I was like, damn it, oh no, I'm blanking. They all have great dialogue, great interactions. You have Perry White, you have so many people that just blend so well together. You have General Swanwick. And Colonel Hardy, yeah. Everyone that just blends together so well and has important parts in this movie to really bring it all together. And the casting is fantastic. How they all interact with each other is great. If you look back at even the character of Jenny, I've brought this up before. She is such a underlooked actress, and she only has a couple parts. Obviously the one where she's about to get destroyed by the World Engine in Metropolis. Yeah. So there's just great interaction. The characters are so well done. I don't think there's a throwaway character in this. Even fucking Pete it comes full circle where he says Dick Splash, and then all of a sudden now he's in the fucking IHOP, and or no, but before then he helps him up after Clark crushes the fence, and then he's in the IHOP. Like, there's no throwaway characters in this. That's glorious.
One last thing before Lantern gets in on this, I just want to talk about Feora. When you have such a great villain like Zod, and then you have this other character as well, Feora, and she almost damn near steals the show over Zod. It just shows such a great 1-2 punch that they had going. I mean, obviously her situation, and I was going to say this dialogue, but we were already going too much into the dialogue. But when she's beating the balls off of fucking Clark in the IHOP.
Oh my god.
When she's
her
laying down the
great.
Grand Slam in IHOP. Oh wait, that's Denny's. Whatever. When she's laying it down in that IHOP, it's the greatest thing about Evolution, and he has weaknesses and stuff, and she just chucks him into the safe, and we get our first exclusive picture.
All right. Well, first of all, Batman is in Batman versus Superman.
All right, fine. Next topic.
No, that's it. All right. No, okay. Yeah, a lot of the same characters from Man of Steel are in BVS. Perry White, Jenny, Lois Lane, Superman, of course, and even Dead General Zod is in BVS.
He did good.
Yeah, good point.
You got Wonder Woman and Lex Luthor and KG Beast. I really like how KG Beast acts as like Lex Luthor's hand in the field. Mercy Graves also acts like that. And you also have Martha Kent in the film as a carryover from Man of Steel. A lot of Justice League members, even though you only see them for a few seconds, I think it's cool that they have cameos in the film. Batman goes from being the villain of the film to being the hero in the end. Joining the Trinity. It's the first time you see the Trinity on screen.
He's more diving everywhere and running away, but yeah, you can call him a hero.
Yes. Also a nice
hiding under a cement block.
Hey, he shoots a grenade. All right, he shoots a grenade.
That's a very important one.
Yes,
it weakens Doomsday.
Not enough, apparently.
Right. Superman's like, do I have to fucking do everything?
I think the most important character of the whole film, though, probably is Lex Luthor. And I know a lot of people, probably like in the mainstream, really didn't like the casting of Lex Luthor. I think Lex Luthor was probably the riskiest cast Zack Snyder has ever done in like his whole filmography.
Yeah, well said.
Because, I mean, if you read comic books and you've read Birthright or Superman Earth 1, you've seen that kind of Lex Luthor already. And it was just like an amazing thing to actually see like a science-based Lex Luthor that hates Superman because Superman has power that Lex Luthor can never have. And that's like where his anger is coming from. Yeah, I think a lot of the characters do great. Even have a cameo from Jonathan Kent in the film, which holds more weight after seeing Man of Steel, but his line is also pretty good. And I also like how when we see Jonathan Kent, he's in the mountains next to what looks like would be the Fortress of Solitude in like the old Superman films. Like it's in the same shape, like that monolith he's next to. And Superman's talking to his Earth dad instead of his Kryptonian dad at the Fortress of Solitude. I think it's just a great way to use these characters that have already been established. I think all the characters are great.
Yeah, especially the point regarding Lex Luthor, I completely agree that it's such a risky casting and also a risky portrayal. He completely switched up what everyone was expecting from a Lex Luthor, but I really enjoy Jesse Eisenberg and his Luthor.
Kick it off, Action Jackson.
Actually, I think most of the action of BVS comes in the third act. I mean, I really don't count the Africa scene at the beginning as action. I think that's more setting up the plot and narrative of the movie. But the third act, you get like 50 minutes of action. It goes from the Batman versus Superman fight to the warehouse scene to the Doomsday fight. It's like nonstop, action-packed. Probably the biggest Batman fight scene we've ever seen in films, by far. Like all the Christian Bale films combined don't equal the brutality that Batman shows in his warehouse scene. The Batmobile chase scene is also a cool little chase scene. And the Batman versus Superman fight is epic beyond proportions. Maybe a little short for some, but I think it was the perfect length because how long could these two really fight before killing each other? And Batman almost kills Superman. And I like that they have Batman winning, so everyone could go suck it. Batman
He did not. He did not. Superman let him win.
I'm pretty sure Batman won there.
I could finish.
We'll argue that.
And on our next debate,
pretty sure he was going to stab him in the face. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, actually,
I wanted it. He'd be dead already. He says it.
Yeah, it's true.
Then he starts choking on gas.
That's probably the only thing I don't like about that fight is he made my hero scream for his mom. It's Martha. You gotta save Martha. Oh man.
I think it kind of comes down. I mean, the Batman vs Superman fight is good from BVS, but I kind of thought like it's the Zod fight versus the warehouse fight. Those are the two top of the tier fights that maybe the Smallville fight, depending on which one you want.
I was going to say it's Smallville. That has some just great
the tag teaming between Fiora and Bigfoot Silva there is fantastic. And I love that when he's throwing her clothesline and they're beating up, and also the way she moves when she's beating the shit out of all those troops.
It's fucking awesome.
I remember watching that, and if you're a Dragon Ball Z fan, you'll get this. But I remember watching Man of Steel and thinking like they could totally make a Dragon Ball Z movie if they actually wanted to put a budget and attempt shit and stuff. So the shitty $5,000 budget they put into the shit that they do now. I was like, God damn, this thing is fantastic. Then later on, you find out from Jay Oliva that he was inspired from like anime and shit. I couldn't believe that. So it was kind of like an anime type style fighting. And I'm not going to defend the warehouse scene. I was about to start talking about the warehouse scene. Fuck that. That's your job.
I agree with Lantern. You know that. Most of BVS's most of the action is in the third act, and that's what makes the action in Man of Steel so important. Is it's spread out through the entire movie. You have some action on Krypton, and then you have action in the oil rig, and then you have the bus, and it's kind of interwoven perfectly with how the story is kind of unfolding. So you have these different moments, you know, then you have kind of the first contact, and then Zod trying to throw his weight around and Superman says, no, fuck you. Then you have the Smallville fight. There's explosions and product placement. And
I was about to say, there is one topic that I was actually going to say this. There is one topic that Man of Steel wins hands down.
And it's product placement.
7-Eleven. Yeah.
IHOP, Sears.
BVS got Jimmy John's in it, all right?
Did he?
Yeah.
I don't even remember that.
I just remember Turkish Airlines, which like anybody that's watching BVS probably cannot afford.
No, Turkish Airlines. Yeah, that was a horrible.
I looked that up, and I was like, God, might as well buy a plane for that price.
But then you have the tornado scene also with Pa Kent, and then Metropolis. There's just so many. There's such great action, but it's not overwhelming action where that's all the movie is. But it's
there is one moment. No, supposed to be defending it.
Okay.
There is a moment of too much action. I still say that first initial fight with the tentacle monster with the world engine is unnecessary. They should have just had him get to that part where he falls down.
Yeah. And
he's coughing really bad and everything. That's where that scene should have started.
Yeah.
No tentacles and shit.
I don't know where that came from. Yeah.
I think it's a callback to Starro, honestly. I think the whole tentacle thing is a callback to that. Justice League's first villain, which was Starro. Because it was a big tentacle starfish thing.
Interesting.
I'm not defending him. I just I think that's what the callback was. Yeah.
All right, memorable moments now, people. This is the last topic. Nut cutting time. Zod getting his neck snapped. Fantastic shit.
That's fucking memorable.
Yeah, I think it's probably one of the most memorable scenes from the movie.
Yeah, love it or hate it.
You don't have to always love it, but it's still a memorable moment for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so realistic. The way he hits the ground, his eyes go out. Yeah, it's fantastic.
The most talked about moment in the DCEU before BVS came out, of course.
Yeah, no kidding.
Trying to put up his own movie.
I think there are several memorable moments. If you're talking about action, some of the things that we just listed, some things that you can call back to. Pretty much a lot of the things that we had talked about with this movie are so memorable and really stand out. The Metropolis scene would be kind of in the same vein as snapping Zod's neck. It's something that's so talked about and had completely changed the course, even to Civil War. If you look at like Civil War, like, oh, maybe we should acknowledge all of the damage that we've done as well. And, and then they have to do the same thing in BVS. Again, memorable, if you love it or hate it, to the point of Jonathan Kent's death. I think there's quite a few in Man of Steel that just really stand out. as kind of laying the foundation again, as this is the type of universe we're going to have. It's going to be grounded. And I think a lot of the moments are perfect. They're not shock value as in like snapping Zod's neck. And this could be another fucking debate if we wanted it to, but it's not shock value because, oh, like, let me do this because it's never been done before. This is the type of broken Superman that we have to have before, you know, that several other things. Same thing with Metropolis. That is what established BVS. That was the laying the foundation for where the, you know, the universe was going to go.
So I actually think the oil rig scene is a very important, memorable moment because it just sets that foundation that you were just describing. It's the best way I think you could possibly introduce a Superman. For some reason, people say Superman doesn't save people, but the very first thing you see him do is save people.
Yep.
Just mind-boggling.
And then the very second thing you see him do, aside from stealing, he steals some clothes.
I still saw that part. I'm like, God damn, he is just like shopping. He's like looking at the socks, he's looking at this.
Like, perfect, I'll take some boots.
It all just fits so well on that big, broad body.
Right? Yeah, no kidding. It's perfect, this jacket. But yeah, then the next thing is him saving kids in a bus.
Yeah, but the oil rig scene I think is just so important because it shows his character. It's really important to show his character like that, and that he is going to help people after what happened to his dad, and he's chose that route for now anyway. And I just think it means a lot. Instead of getting on the helicopter, he just sits there and holds it. Those guys bail out, leave the man to die that saved him. And then he just floats with some whales. I mean, it's harmonious. It's just beautiful.
Such a missed opportunity in Aquaman. Maybe that's why I hated it so much. There was no callback.
But the world engine scene.
Yeah.
Now, the world engine, other than the tentacles part, but the thing that's going on between Perry White and Jenna, that whole moment between them, while you see Clark struggling on the other side of the world, and even the little torch passing moment where, I mean, it's somewhat debatable, I don't know, but it looks like to me that they kind of slowly image over Christopher Reeve's face, over over Henry Cavill's face as he's fighting to shoot through the world engine. As Shane talked about earlier, I thought it's like inspiring. It's just really what it is. It means a lot. And then I think just something that it was in the trailers, and it's just, or what most kids did, and the kid with the towel as a cape playing with the dog. It's just it's a great trailer moment. It's just a great moment in general that it encapsulates the movie. It encapsulates what this Superman is projecting to be one of these days. It's just so well done.
I still watch those trailers. Like, if I want to feel inspired.
Oh, we should have done that in trailers. Actually, yeah. Anyway, go ahead.
as a
topic. Trailers, that matters.
Hey, I love the trailers. I thought the marketing for Man of Steel was awesome.
Well, there's a lot. I'm just going to go off memory here.
Martha!
Martha. That's probably the most controversial moment of the film.
Yeah.
But let's start at the beginning of the film. I mean, the Wayne deaths was, I think, portrayed perfectly. It's definitely a memorable moment.
Mama said that. My mama said that. My mama said that. My mama said that.
Memorable moment for me. Fuck, I can't even.
It's that memorable.
It's that memorable. But yeah, seeing Thomas Wayne ball up his fist and throw a punch before getting shot, I thought that was a big, memorable moment. Bruce Wayne running through the 9/11 looking building collapsing, the smoke, just running into it, I think was probably the most memorable thing from the trailers before the movie was coming out, right? It's like the only thing people were talking about before the movie was coming out. A lot of the memorable moments that involve Lex Luthor, I think, are a lot of standout moments when you first hear his theme and he's going to the scout ship for the first time and he sticks a Jolly Rancher in the dude's mouth. It was cherry.
Yummy.
I think that did a really good job showing how powerful Lex Luthor is, that he could just control these senators like nothing.
Or shove things in their mouth.
Shove things in their mouth, shove all kinds of things in their mouth. Who knows what else he shoved in their mouths. Leave that up for interpretation.
Granny's peach tea.
Some memorable moments. Batman, of course, when he's fighting Superman. The whole Martha moment was I got it the first time I watched it. I don't understand what the disconnect was with some of the people that watched this film. I understood it immediately. I didn't even need the flashbacks to the Wayne deaths. Like, I understood exactly what the connection was, even though I never personally made the connection myself, that Superman and Batman's moms have the same name. I never really thought about that. And I've been reading comics for like 10 years, never thought about that. So that moment really stood out to me big time. The fucking Congress blowing up, Granny's peach tea, that whole scene when it was set up earlier. They're in the Lex Luthor's office and he's talking about the red capes are coming, and the senator lady, I forget her name honestly, but she takes control of him and you see him shudder. I think that was a memorable moment because it was the first time Lex Luthor actually was shooken in the movie, and he was shooken by a woman, which I thought was really interesting. And then he brings back that line that she says while he's about to kill her, right? The whole peach tea stuff, the piss in the jar, and the whole building blows up. It's fire all around Superman. Big memorable moment. Obviously, the Trinity on the screen for the first time. Another big memorable moment. Superman's death. How can we forget Superman's death in the movie? Even though he was brought back pretty quick in Justice League. Yeah. It was still a big moment where you see in the Ultimate Cut, you actually see Doomsday's fucking arm knife thing, his boner go right through Superman's chest and out his back. You see it in the Ultimate Edition; it's sticking out his back. That image really stuck with me, and the whole Trinity and Lois Lane, holding Superman's dead body, and his Superman's funeral was also very memorable. Just a lot of stuff in the movie I thought was pretty memorable. I think every scene was like a highlight.
Well, Jesus.
Actually,
okay, so the whole movie is a memorable moment.
Overall.
To your point, the people that I first watched the theatrical version with in theaters, he said something along the lines of, can you have a movie that has literally every scene is a holy shit moment in it? Like, it just feels like everything was so epic, and like you leave it just exhausted. Like, dang, it was just, yeah. So that whole thing made me laugh, and just when you were describing that, I'm like, oh yeah, that one guy. Any other moments? You already said the whole movie. Well, no, I mean the breathe it in.
I'll breathe it in. That's right. Yes. Lots of good lines. That goes back to the dialogue, Chris Terrio dialogue.
So we'll just kind of end on the moments there, and we'll just talk about the final thoughts. We'll go pull Jerry Springer here. Final thoughts. The thing is, really, this is kind of tough in the end of the day because both movies are really, really well done. Mm-hmm. There are some aspects of BVS that does kind of drag, and it's world building that's unnecessary because of WB and what they did. And so there is some parts that kind of drag that down, but that's why I always kind of lean towards Man of Steel. Ultimately for me was Man of Steel is just, I don't want to say perfection because no movie really is perfect, but it's a great rundown of a guy's life that is dealing with such power that none of us could really quite fathom, but they made him human. They made him as human as possible in this. And he grew up just like us. If you got bullied, if you don't understand certain things, what's happening with you, and all of a sudden you're getting a stiffy in the middle of class, but he's seeing through people. Right. It's almost the same thing. So you're able to, your imagination, or he's actually doing it. One of the two. Either way. And it's a very realistic approach on it, and also just it's tucked down to a nice runtime, and I don't ever feel like things were lost on the cutting room floor necessarily with Man of Steel. No, yeah, I agree. It seems like it's the vision that was intended for the most part, and we got to see it the first go around. Damn, I don't know how to follow up to that. But yeah, I agree. I don't mind the extra details and everything in BVS. There's a lot going on, so many different character arcs in BVS. But that's what I enjoy about Man of Steel is it is a much simpler approach, but also at the same time, again, building a foundation for what the universe should have been. I mean, it's kind of up for whatever now. But just
so well done, so inspiring, so many moments that I can look back to. As Matt mentioned earlier, I watched this movie on my phone. And this goes back to the very beginning. I was so into this movie before it came out. To Man of Steel, I was I pretty much watched the whole movie before the movie came out because I was so into it and watching every little clip that came out, all the behind the scenes stuff. And then it just kind of pieced it all together. But it's one of those. Both movies are rewatchable and they're so close. And if I had to rate them, but Man of Steel just has that extra icing on the cake.
Panache.
Exactly. And as Matt said, as close to perfection as you can possibly get. There's a couple nitpicky moments that I can pull out of it. The tentacles that would definitely be one of them. But for the most part, it's hard to pick that movie apart, and it's just so well done.
All right, my final thoughts. Batman versus Superman, I think probably got the short end of the stick when it came to the audience, because I think the audience kind of liked Man of Steel better when it first came out. Obviously, it got better critical scores and whatnot. But amongst fans, I think these movies are like the Godfather movies, Godfather 1 and 2. It's kind of hard to say which one's better amongst, hardcore fans. But for me, BVS is better because, it's a little more about perspective and how the idea of somebody can change the more you get to know them, right? And Batman doesn't know Superman at all, and he's going by the whole, post 9/11 ideal of like if 1% chance he's our enemy, he's got to be our absolute certainty he's our enemy, that kind of stuff.
More great dialogue.
Yeah, more great dialogue.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
What was I saying?
You interrupted him.
That's paradoxical, man. BVS definitely got the short end of the stick because Warner Brothers did want a lot of world building in BVS. I think it's probably why they pushed back the film a whole year. I think it was supposed to come out 2015, and they pushed it back to 2016 to do reshoots and stuff. And personally, I think Zack Snyder, with all that, all of that going against him, he still pulled it off. I mean, obviously, that's up for debate because the movie wasn't received well critically, and it kind of messed up Justice League because Warner Brothers lost faith in Zack Snyder and everything.
Yeah, they're a bunch of morons.
Which was like a bunch of horse shit. They should have followed through, of course, because it definitely was going somewhere. A lot of things in BVS, like the nightmare scene, do kind of leave you wanting more because there was something that was going to happen, and we didn't get to see it happen. But as a standalone film by itself, you got everything you could possibly want in Batman vs. Superman. If you're a comic book fan and you like Batman and Superman, this is the ultimate movie. I mean, it's like the best of both these characters from their entire history. I think Zack Snyder pulled it off the best he possibly could. I like it a lot.
A lot.
I like it a lot.
And I think that's a good send-off.
Yeah. Well said. I guess it's up for debate. If people, we just did it. We just debated it. But, leave it in the comments, and that's all I got.
Man, it's still better. All right. We want to thanks again, Lantern, for joining us for this great debate.
For being the third guy.
Yeah, you were the third man.
I don't know. That's
more 80s porn.
I was gonna say that sounded like porno music.
And you're growing a mustache, so that's creepy.
It was supposed to be NWO.
Thank you again, Lantern, for this great podcast. This was fun. It's always good to do these little what are these called?
Collaborations.
Thank you. I kept wanting to say connections.
That too.
And these collaborations, and this was fun. This was pretty sweet.
Absolutely. Thanks
it's
again,
probably
Lana.
the worst debate in debate history because the way it was straight.
Agreeing with each other the whole time.
It didn't get heated at all. Fake news.
I was waiting for it to turn like the South Park thing where the one guy gives a great fucking speech about stuff and then the kids just look at him. This guy sucks ass. And like that ends the debate. Man. All right, we gave it a shot and hopefully everybody enjoys it.
Yes.
So again, thanks, Lantern.
No problem.
Any final words?
No, I had lots of fun. Can't wait to do another one. Maybe we'll debate about whether or not Zack Snyder should do a zombie film or something. I don't know.
Well, I was actually thinking we should do what's the worst DCEU movie now, either Justice League or Suicide Squad.
Or Aquaman. No, I'm just
Ooh. Well, I think Shane has his
shots
own.
fired.
I like how you did the mankind. Bang!
Too bad we're not recording
Yeah,
this.
no, we had video.
Yeah.
He put his hands up in the air and like a little bang,
Did that
bang.
bang.
God damn, Shane. Watch it a second time, you asshole. Did you?
No,
Okay.
I probably need to.
In case I don't see you.
Good afternoon, good evening, and good night.
Congratulations, you made it to the end of the video. You're one of very few to make it to the end.
Yes, thank you very much.
Make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to Comic Movie Marks Podcast and hit the notification bell. You know, all these fucking YouTube channels say this shit, so I'm going to say it now.
Yes, it's perfect. And if you want to hear our full podcast, you can check out our podcast on iTunes or any other podcast subscription service.
Make sure you subscribe. Thanks again.